Hello, morning. Well, to Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest move through to the last stage of the FA Cup after beating Ipswich Town on penalties last night. Can the Reds go on to win the competition? Who should play v Man City? And will going to extra time last night impact this weekend's game? Joining me to discuss all that and more, first of all, is Michael Temple. Temps, morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. It was good to see Gaz last night. He came out and did the royal wave at half time, didn't he? I thought he might be coming on, that injection of pace that we needed to get the tie won.
That is the
No need at all. No need at all.
the Exeter late night. Crikey, they're putting us through the mill.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy, has it?
No.
It'll be part of the story when we get to Wembley, Gaz.
Fun?
Part of the story when we get to Wembley.
Yeah.
Late night home from Exeter, late night home from Ipswich. Who knows what's to come against Brighton, but yeah, part of the story.
Worse, if you'd been an Ipswich fan travelling all that way back, having lost on penalties.
Not the one.
I know. Reds legend Garry Birtles, how are you this morning?
Yeah, not too bad. Up at 6, so not many hours sleep, but hey ho.
What are you up at 6 for?
I always am up at 6. I'm always walking. I go out walking at 6. 20,000 steps yesterday, you see, trying to keep myself fit.
Oh, that's why he's a legend. Love it. Emily Anderson, how are you this morning?
Yes, a bit tired, if I'm honest. Yeah, a bit of a late night, but totally worth it in the end. It wasn't as routine as I thought it would be last night, let's put it that way.
Thought it was going to be routine.
No, it wasn't.
That was tight out.
No, it was, yeah. I just think pre-match I had a false sense of security probably, but hey, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Kick us off, Emily. What did you make of it overall then?
It was edgy. It was nerve-wracking. I think Ipswich actually did themselves really proud without sounding too patronising. Oh look, my dog wants to be in the podcast. And it was one of those games though that actually, in hindsight, we were in control of the game without being a huge threat. Nuno clearly is incredibly organised with regards to penalties because the penalties just were superb yet again. On to the next round. It's very exciting. We're one game away from Wembley. And anything could happen at Brighton, couldn't it? Yeah, it was way more nervy than I thought it would be. Pre-match, I said, I'm not really bothered if we go through or not. But actually, of course I was bothered. But yeah, just really, really delighted. And you could see from the players' faces and celebrations at the end, it meant an awful lot to them as well.
Yeah, and Nuno's celebrations as well, certainly.
Yeah,
I mean, we're definitely at that stage of the season, Temps, where I don't think performances are particularly relevant, really. It's a case of just winning. Winning is everything now in this home stretch, isn't it?
Yeah, we saw that by the team selection, didn't we? We debated whether he'd go full strength. He didn't. He left some guns on the bench, but picked more than enough to be what was a relatively weak Ipswich side. They left their big guns on the bench or out. Amari Hutchinson's injured. So I thought the game was there for the taking. I thought we would ease through it a bit more comfortably than we did. But Matt Sells, the hero once again. And I do think some players did put in a big performance last night. But there is that slight drop-off when we don't put out our absolute best 11. But that can't be done when you have runs of fixtures like this. And as Emily said, the only important thing was getting through.
I think there was a bit of a sentiment, Gary, that from quite a few people, it's just Ipswich, it's just their reserves. We were terrible. I didn't see it that way. How did you rate the performance?
I didn't see us as terrible. I always worry about when we play teams like Ipswich, because the league game, they were very, very good. They had more possession than us, like a lot of teams do. It was so close, it very tight. Liam Delap, I'm glad he didn't play last night. And obviously they're prioritising staying in the Premier League if possible, because I thought they might go full strength thinking, well, the Premier League's out of our reach now. But obviously not. They still believe they can stay up. And they're one of the best pressing teams, I've seen. Mm-hmm. But we were the architects of our own downfall in the first half a little bit. I thought I was quite pleased with the way we were playing. We were getting in great areas. We were playing, some nice football, but we over-egged the pudding when we got in the areas that we could make things happen. I felt sorry for Tyree last night because he's desperate for a goal and he's getting in the box and you're expecting a ball to come in the box and it never came. We just kept tippy-tapping about, and then we lose it. Then it goes out for a throw-in. Then it's cleared, and that happened on about 4 or 5 occasions when we're in really good areas. And that was a major disappointment for me. But I was pleased with the build-up play. It was good. You know, Alanga looked lively. Hudson-Odoi looked very lively. And it looked good. I thought Yatesy had a really good game last night. There wasn't a lot wrong with it. I was a bit disappointed with Sangare. I think it was a good chance for him to maybe shine, and he got bought off later on. But second half was a lot better. And, you know, I think we just deserve to edge it. But they're a team that you don't take lightly because, you know, they have that desire. They have that will to, you know, try and do the right things. But, you know, maybe they're lacking a little bit of class in the final third as well.
We'll pick up on quite a few of those points, obviously, that Gary made around the Sangare in the midfield, obviously. I was going to talk about penalties next, but just before we do, Temps, Gary said there about overplaying. We always seem to like to overload the side that Hudson-Odoi is on, normally with Anderson, Gibbs-White and a fullback. Last night, Nuno did it with Elanga in the first half. Hudson-Odoi consistently, or certainly more so, played on the right with Elanga on the left, switching the wingers. That drew some criticism from fans I saw with wanting to switch back. What did you make of that plan overall with the wingers last night?
Yeah, he started off with the asymmetric formation, didn't he? Elanga playing more as a striker than a winger. I saw the logic of that. It allows Elanga to drift, and it also brings the through ball and the ball in behind into play. Ipswich played through the middle. Sam Morsey was there, key player, very assured on the ball, looked to get on it deep and distribute if he didn't beat his first man. And they didn't play without an out wingers. So I can see the logic of that. We knew there'd be space down the side, so we wanted to get someone up there to join Chris Wood. We didn't have much joy from the long ball, did we? We didn't have much. Tyrell Wanyi. We didn't have much pulled out the sky. We weren't winning the flicks, and there wasn't a lot for Elanga to chase. So he had to go looking for work. And in the second half, perhaps drifted a bit wide, then was able to cause more damage. We like Hudson-Odoi off the left because we've seen that goal he scores time and time again, where he cuts back inside and lets it rip. You do lose a bit of goal threat from him when he's on the right-hand side. But if he's a creative force, he's a very, very effective right winger, as we saw last night. I think we debated this, didn't we, before the game? What I'm really pleased in terms of the team selection is, what pleased me most was that Nuno picked both wingers, because that is the position where there's the biggest drop-off between the first two and the next two. Other positions we do have more of a stockpile. There's less of a difference, but it was important for me and showed the requirement that Nuno placed on winning that tie in starting those players, even though he didn't use them as classic wingers in the first half.
Let's talk about the penalties then. I'll ask Gary about taking penalties shortly, but nerves in the ground, Emily. I know we lost to Newcastle on penalties, but it feels like we've cracked them, touch wood, for the last few years. How were the nerves when they were being taken?
I think the nerves were like they are whenever you're watching your team take penalties. You just don't want them to mess it up, do you? But I have to say, as the penalties went on, it kind of did feel routine, the penalty taking, because we knew who was going to take them. We knew Chris would take the first, Morgan Gibbs-White, Anderson, Nico, and then we obviously didn't know who the final one would potentially be. And every single penalty was a great penalty, including all of Ipswich's, apart from, of course, their final one. Nuno has clearly spent an awful lot of time on the training ground working on the penalties. They'd have known exactly. He'd probably know who was going to take all of them up to Matt Sells if it had got to that in sudden death. Brian Yates spoke after the game and talked about the importance of making sure that penalties isn't a lottery. It's something they work on. There's a fine art. Chris Wood took his time before he stepped up. He knew exactly what he was going to do. And I have to say, nerves-wise, yeah, nerves were there. But you just had that feeling we were going to edge it, and we did, and it was just the best feeling in the ground as the music started, players running onto the sort of running up to Matt Sells, and it was just party time. Really, it almost felt like when you saw Nuno's sort of sense of relief that we'd almost won the FA Cup, not just got through to the quarterfinals. But it was an absolute delight to see, and isn't it great when you're in the ground and you win on penalties?
Oh, yeah. And it's great for Sells to get the goalies never get to celebrate like they've scored, and he was the hero. Just in terms of taking penalties, Gary, I don't actually know how many you took during your career, but obviously, you know what it's like, the pressure of trying to score goals. How impressed were you, and what do you think? What goes into taking penalties in a shootout like that?
Well, Emily's right. The 9 penalties were first class. No keeper's going to save any of those. They were so confident. you've got to give the Ipswich players credit, because in front of the Trent end, with all that waving around and trying to put them off, didn't work. And the penalty that was saved wasn't the worst penalty you've ever seen. And it takes some bottle, I'll tell you, taking penalties. I mean, I played with one of the best in the business, Robbo. Letitia was probably the best, but Robbo was probably second. And when he wasn't there, I remember missing one against Chelsea in the Trent end at City Ground because he wasn't there. I think it was the same season. I might have got the hat-trick at Chelsea when we beat them 6-2. When Webby got a hat-trick, I got a hat-trick, and Franz Cole got man of the match. Franz was there last night, and we were talking about that game. And I told him I saw the 6-2 on my phone the other week, and I got the penalty. It wasn't the greatest. The goalkeeper had gone the right way, to walked across and picked it up, but he went the other way. But it's not easy. Even at that level, when you've won things, if you're not used to taking them, it can get to you. And they were all cultured penalties. None of them were blasts or anything like that. It was good to see that composure from both sets of players, really.
Yeah, I mean, the evolution of penalties, Temps, is over the last 10 or 15 years. Like, I'm sure when Garry was playing, you probably had like specialists in your team like Robbo, who you knew was going to score. But now to be able to go 5 or 6 players deep in the Forest team, and they're hitting the corners every time. I think in general, penalty shootouts seem to have probably improved over the years, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, Letizier's method, side foot with pace and pick your corner, served him very, very well, didn't he? Is there some kind of stat? Is Crossy the only guy that saved the Letizier penalty?
Yeah.
But you're watching those penalties last night. We were in the Upper Bryan Clough and just saw them all hit the side netting, particularly those that went to the keeper's right. And I think in most of those cases, certainly the first 2, the Ipswich keeper guessed correctly and just couldn't get near the penalties because they were struck side foot with such pace. What's snuck into penalty taking, the art of penalty taking, is the stuttered run up, the delay, the faking. No one takes a conventional run up anymore, do they? Or rarely so. They try and tempt the keeper into going early. But I think I was backing Matt Sells to make a save last night, and it proved to be crucial. That's such a pressure penalty at 5-4, and his contribution was telling. But in a positive sense, as Emily said, there were 9 good penalties before the 10th was missed, and I don't think that was a particularly bad penalty. Look at the freeze frame. The moment he's striked, Sells is just committed to go to his left, and he gets there with the outstretched arm. So yeah, credit to the fella. 10 good penalties, but all I care about is that my team scored 5 of them.
Let's just talk quickly about the chances of winning the FA Cup then. I was looking at the odds just before we started, thinking we'd be 3rd or 4th favourites. We're still 7th favourites at 12-1. Man City are the favourites. Then it goes Villa, Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Palace, and then us. How are you feeling about our chances, Emily? Now we know we've got Brighton away. Are those odds pretty harsh for you?
I'm not bothered about odds at all. I'm quite happy that we're down there. No one's got any expectations. We can just go about our business like we have done most of this season in the Premier League. We stand as good a chance as anyone left in the competition. We're in the final 8. It's going to be a really tough trip going to Brighton. There's no 2 ways about it. Forget that we beat them 7-0 at home in the league. Away in the Cup at Brighton, which will probably be on a Friday night, won't it? Because we've got the Man United game on the Tuesday. It's going to be a really, really tough ask for the players, but you could see how much they wanted it last night. You could see how much it meant to them to get into a quarter-final. And there's that incredible prize of playing at Wembley. And a lot of those players will have never played at Wembley. So it's going to be a really, really special night or day, whenever it is, against Brighton. And why not? Why not? There is no one left in the competition that we should fear. There is no one left that we should fear. And I think that it's quite nice, isn't it, that we're 7th favourites, because the pressure's off and we just enjoy it like we have all season.
How would you be viewing the draw with a player's hat on, Garry?
I would be pleased with that. Obviously, when the draw came out, everybody wants a home fixture. Everybody wanted Preston at home. No disrespect to Preston. But it doesn't work like that. And Brighton will still have it on their minds, that 7-0. Believe you me, they won't be thinking, oh, well, we're going to put this right up. They might try and think that, but it's going to be in the back of their minds that they've got to do the right things, or they'll try to do different things on the day against us than they did at the City Ground. So the pressure is massively on them. no pressure on us whatsoever. We can just go and enjoy ourselves. And after we've beaten the City on Saturday, then the pressure's off there as well. It maintains our place in the league, and winning's a good habit. Don't change things. Don't mend things if they're not broken. Keep those players out there if they're fit. They've had a break. There's an international break coming up, so it's coming a good time, and just bask in the glory of what happened last night. But let's take it another step forward. I mean, as a player, as far as I got with Forest when we were flying, it was only quarter final. Arsenal knocked us out of the City ground 1-0, and it always rankled a little bit because it meant something in those days, the FA Cup. And you can see we keep talking about the intensity of the players, the camaraderie's there. The unity in that squad is absolutely overwhelming. It's not false. You watch them when Nuno came on, and I know, he jumped on his back, and it was great to see. Nuno, he's not one of the most pragmatic, person, people on the touchline or anything, but he loved every minute of what was going on, and it was great to see. Massive smile on his face. Players loving every minute of the celebration, and it's good to see. It really is good to see players like that. With the togetherness they've got, and that could take us quite a long way this season. It really could.
Just before we talk about the midfield, then just a quick word for the Trent Navigation. Saturday 12:30 is the kickoff. We're on TV, so you could watch the game there if you don't have a ticket. And straight afterwards, the post-match show with the Fun Boy 2. It's free entry, barbecue and pizza kitchen to get your food, and of course 80s, 90s club classics, bangers, anthems, and floor fillers, no less. So do get down the nav on Saturday. Breakfast early as well from 10 a.m.
Is that you, Greg, the Fun Boy 2? Is that you? Just
father and son combo.
My word.
Or husband and husband.
That's one of the rumours.
Yeah. No, definitely not, I'm afraid. No, but it should be good. It should be good. Right. Midfield temps. Garry referenced Sangare there. He thought he didn't quite grasp his opportunity. Others were impressed with him. I thought he had a good first half. He was good with the ball. I think he has moments without the ball. But generally, I thought he did all right. Did he do enough, though? Did anyone do enough to cement that midfield place for Man City?
I think Ryan Yates is the player that's got most chance of playing against Man City. I see Dominguez coming out of the side. I think Gibbs White and Elliot Anderson keep their places. And we're looking for another. And the front runners for that have to be Yates or Sangare. I don't think Danilo will be the one in there. I don't think he did quite enough last night. Sangare had that chance, the header from the corner first half that whistled past the stick. That was his moment to make a telling contribution to the game. But no, I don't think anybody did quite enough to get past Ryan Yates. Nico Dominguez hasn't had the best run recently, and I think he vacates that spot. That's the change that I would make.
What about, this is what I would do at the moment. What about sacrificing a winger, play Yates and Sangare or Dominguez and Anderson? Gary's shaking his head. Anyone? No?
Being on the front foot for this side means starting Alanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi. Alanga's delivery for the Yates goal, first rate. 20 crosses last night. Admittedly, quite a few of those were quite poorly taken corners, which isn't the norm for Alanga. He had an off night in that sense. But that constant threat, the fact he's put the ball in the box that many times, it just demonstrates what he can be to this team. The ability to drift inwards, become that second centre forward when the ball's down the opposite flank. I think his pace is an absolute weapon, and we need to be a front foot team looking for sets of 3 points rather than going to avoid defeat. And for me, that means starting Anthony Langer and Callum Hudson-Odoi every time we can.
What about you, Emily? Was Yates your man of the match?
For me, yeah, I think overall he was, wasn't it? It was a really good game for Yates to be in anyway. It's his kind of game that he would have loved last night, and great to see him get a goal. I mean, the obvious thing for us in the midfield, they were fine, but we were missing that creative spark of Anderson and Gibbs White, weren't we? And I was hoping pre-match that at least one of them would have started, and I think that would have made it a more comfortable time for us, because as soon as those two came on in the second half, the creativity was, in that final third, we were just kind of more creative on the ball and sort of creating more chances. But I agree. I think that Yatesy did himself lots of favours, and I'm sure Nuno will be looking at him as that midfielder to complement Gibbs White and Anderson on Saturday. Yeah, I mean, I think, like Temp says, you can't bench Callum or Anthony Elanga. They're two of our best players, and they kind of drive us forward every time. Every time. So yeah, I mean, they've got to start.
You look at Man City, how badly they are defending at the moment. Before, apologies, I'm full of cold. Before, teams are ripping them apart at the moment. And what rips you apart is pace and creativity in that final third. So I think, you've got to go positive. And I think Nuno will go positive. Ask any defender what he hates more than anything. People running at him or pace. And we've got that in abundance. They're a bit low, City. They're out of the Champions League. This is probably the only chance maybe they've got to win something this season. And, the pressure's on them because of that. There's questions being asked about De Bruyne, about Grealish. Are they past the sell-by date? All these questions are coming, and it puts heaps of pressure on. No matter how good you are or what you've won in the past few seasons, they're not the Manchester City of old. So it's a good opportunity to go and, maybe put a bit of distance between us and them on Saturday. The one thing that worried me as well was the conceding of the goal last night. We've not mentioned that. No Milenkovic, free header, and they had another one that they could have, done similar. The marking was poor from set pieces, and had they been a bit better quality, we could have lost that game. So, that was the one negative defensively I would pick out last night. Back to the old season where we conceded so many from corners, and that shows how important Milenkovic has been for us.
I watched the goals back this morning, Temp. I know Gary's. I'll let Gary recharge if he's got a cold. But zonal marking looks bad when you have guys pinned like that, and you have a guy. I mean, no one even looked at Hurst. It looked pretty grim last night, that corner, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we missed a zone. The zone's called the back post, and a lot of headers are scored there from corners. So
it's quite an important zone.
Yeah, exactly that. Now look, they effectively block. So Yates and Aina are blocked, but you have to do more from your starting position, from your aggression. Yates was taken out of the game, and it's a really, really simple header for George Hurst, albeit one that goes through the keeper. But take nothing away from Ipswich, and I think this has been mentioned before in your analysis, Matt. We do have a weakness from corners with the blocking. If it's not blocking the keeper, it's blocking the key markers. And they've created such a pocket of space for themselves at the back stick last night, only required a good delivery to create that chance. And look at the starting position. I think we've got 5 defenders covering the near stick, which is Milenkovic's big strength. And no one's beyond Yates, who's pinned near the keeper. And it's a relatively simple goal. So that's the lesson learned. And I think the one negative that were being spoken about in the training ground this morning, we need to be wiser to the blockers, and we need our starting positions to have some kind of correlation to the attackers when they're overloading the back stick.
Our instinct always seems to be defend the front post first because so many corners go in there. But against Arsenal, we defended the back stick well. And it's just, no Milenkovic seemed to mean big problems. And what did you make of Morato and Murillo as a pair, Emily, last night?
I'm not sure, really. I think Murillo really missed Milenkovic last night. He didn't have his best game, did he? He's always has those wonderful moments in a game, but his passing was a bit off. Those long range passes that we know he can normally execute beautifully. He didn't last night. Morato was okay, but I think Murillo shines when he knows he's got the Milenkovic next to him, and we did miss him last night. But you wouldn't expect Nuno to play both those lads in an FA Cup tie at this stage when we've got Man City or whoever we've got on Saturday. They were fine, but it was a real drop off from what we're used to in the Premier League.
Right. Sorry, mate, I was going to make a couple of quick points on Murillo. First of all, lucky not to concede the penalty against Roy Delap. He'd skinned Morato. Murillo did what he did what he does, sprinted back, got into position, and he was relaxed in his jockey, Delap looked to cut across him, and he did have Murillo off balance, dangled his leg, went down. I think it was Delap's theatrics that stopped him winning the penalty. It was a slightly lazy leg from Murillo. The second point I wanted to make was, in possession, there were times last night where he looked like a fully grown man playing against kids. Just that poise on the ball, the control with the sole of the foot, flicks it left and right, not very much prepared to take a man on, even as relatively high risk. He's got such good acceleration off the mark, such a good little feint that, yeah, you can just see where the kind of club, the kind of Brazil side that he's going to end up being a big part of. As Emily said, where it fell down for him, attempted a lot of long balls last night that were wayward compared to what he normally does. But that confidence, that poise, we shouldn't coach that out of him. We should embrace it, because that's what allows us to play this transition game as effectively as we do. Having a footballer like that playing at left-sided centre half, they're a rare commodity, and we've got one of the best, if not the best, in the Premier League. Had an off night last night. You can see those attributes that he's got and why he's causing attention from so many sides.
Crikey, their keeper made a decent save for him, and Sells, that one he tipped over as well. That didn't look particularly good to maybe some people, but it was. That's how important Sells has become. I would put him in the top 3 goalkeepers in the Premier League at the moment, without, if not the best, because he's different class at the moment, and he's been consistent all season. And it's so important when you're a defender, when you've got a goalkeeper like that behind you, when he's shouting, he's telling you what's going on, he can see the whole picture, and he takes the pressure off you. And we've had so many different keepers over the last few years that you think, well, yeah, that's going to be okay, not turn out to be okay. And finally, we've got most pieces in the jigsaw. You always go down the middle. You get your goalkeeper, you get your centre half partnership, which we've got. That's why we're doing so well. The central midfield, with Anderson and Gibbs White, and then you've got Chris up front. The spine of the team is just phenomenal, and the building around it that Nuno's done, and the credit has got to Alanga and Hudson-Odoi, because maybe they're not used to the work rate they're having to do for Forest in that setup, and they're putting the long hours in to try and help out and come back and be part of a defensive system as well. So there's a lot of credit got to go to a lot of people in that football club at the moment. It's a pleasure to watch. And going back to Ryan Yates, I think what made him the man of the match last night, what I noticed differently, he did things quickly. He sometimes gets the ball and he loiters on it, and he doesn't do it. There's a pass on and he doesn't do it quick enough. Every time he picked the ball up, he did it quickly, and I thought, yeah, fine. And he a lot of his headers. I think that was one of his best all-round performances of the season.
I thought so. I thought he was good. Just on Murillo as well. I think a few people in the chat are saying that was just outside the box, and I think it probably was. I thought he was trying. He tried quite a lot of long balls, but I wonder if he was trying that to inject something into our game in the first half. Like Gary said, move the ball a bit quicker, a bit of intensity, and even though he didn't come off, I sort of commend him for it. So I've got no complaints there. Go on, Thames.
Yeah, it's fair. I think it's more of a calculated risk, isn't it, if it's outside of the box? And to Gary's point, when is Murillo going to score this goal of the season? Because that's another one to add to the list of almost being something we talk about for a long time. I don't want to coach out of him his natural game. He's turned up at Forest and he's put the fear of God into everyone in training with his power and his strength. But he's not just a brute. Then you look at him caressing the ball and pinging the balls he pings when he's at his very best, beating players and drifting through the lines as he does when he's at his very best. But let's not forget, he hasn't played very much Premier League football at all. And he looks so assured at the level. So I think you can kind of overcoach that kind of player, and that's clearly not happening. Forest want to improve them, but harness those natural attributes and give him the freedom, give him an uncluttered mind just to go out there and play with, because as a natural footballer, I think he just looks so fully formed for the stage that he's at in a very young career.
Yeah, I agree. Right, I think Will points out in the chat as well. Ryan Yates blocks a goal-bound one from him as well that he couldn't really get out of the way of. That was a good hit on his right foot, and there was the flick.
Yeah, Yates could have been in the back of the net with the ball on that one.
There was the flick in the box as well for the corner where, and he picked out Elanga, and yeah, he was really good. Did anyone see, I don't know if anyone's watched it back yet, Morato's booking, if you've had a second viewing of it or not? He got booked for that tackle. I don't know if anyone's seen it and thought if it was harsh or not. The people
Was it the
online
one
said
where he jumped all over the Ipswich player? Was he like climbing on his back? Was it that one? Is that what you guys
no, it was a slide tackle.
I didn't see it. Didn't see it.
I thought it was a yellow, but quite a few people online they thought it wasn't, but I thought it was.
I was in one of the boxes because I was match day guest, and obviously you get the replay straight away, 2 or 3 of them, and I thought it was a bit harsh.
Okay, I thought it probably was a yellow by today's standards, but yeah, there you go. There was one thing I don't know talk about the ref. He wasn't that bad, but the booking of Anderson, you thought he was?
I didn't think he was good.
I thought it's the Anderson booking. Like Morsey handles the ball, it wasn't a foul. He should have been a booking for Morsey, and then he gets up and leathers it at Anderson. He didn't try and block it. So yeah, it wasn't great. You wanted to come in there, Thames.
That frustration, the passage of play, being denied an obvious free kick, a free kick being given to them that was questionable, then just to compound that, giving Anderson the yellow card. The ref did well last night, let the game flow, but that was not his finest moment.
No, I thought so. Thanks for Peter. Just a reminder, do like and subscribe. That would be very helpful if you would. We'll talk about the atmosphere in the ground shortly, but just before we do that, a really short video from Global Telemetrics this week about how it went for them in January to show that they are very efficient in what they do. So we'll see you in just 7 seconds.
£1.4 million worth of vehicles were recovered in January. Slight increase from January 24.
There you go. £1.4 million worth of vehicles, not all owned by Temps. So if you're looking to secure your vehicle, click the link in the description. It's cars, vans, caravans, anything.
Do you back umpires like you back referees?
No, not at all.
They've got an easier job, umpires, than referees, because they've got for them. I don't think he was good. Like I said, I think he was a bit pedantic. I think it was about him at times. And I think he got quite a few things wrong. And I wasn't impressed with him.
There's the benefit of replays, Gaz, and sitting near a radiator in a box with a telly. I was trying to keep my keep my circulation going in the upper BC.
We put it on specially for you, so the heat would rise to where you were sitting.
You can't give me the Wi-Fi code, could you?
It doesn't work on that side of the ground. I've got it. Right. I just want to talk about the atmosphere a little bit. Will says it was very quiet first half, especially going back to the Arsenal game as well. We didn't discuss the atmosphere in the Arsenal game, Emily. A few people said it felt quite quiet for a big night game. We've got Man City, an early game, a massive game, but an early kickoff. What are you making of the atmosphere, and do you think it's going to be as we hope it will be v City or not?
I'm sure it will be, and I think in moments last night the atmosphere was good. But remember, if we take last night in isolation, it's an FA Cup game whereby people will be coming that don't normally come to the ground. Lots of families would have been there last night. So you've got to take that into consideration. But also, the Arsenal game, for example, started pretty loud, but it was a 0-0 effectively. So, you can only sing for so long without getting something back from the players on the pitch. And yes, it was a great defensive performance, but there wasn't an awful lot to celebrate in that game. And again, last night felt quite edgy. We're really proud, aren't we, of our atmosphere at the City Ground? But I just think maybe we just.
Where's your mic gone? I think Emily's mic's gone.
Yeah, I can't hear her either.
I can't hear you, Emily. Your mic's gone. I have to come back to you. You might have to adjust your mic. I have to adjust your mic. I don't know.
Talking about atmosphere, it's a City Ground. This is not bias. It's the best in the Premier League by a country mile. I was saying yesterday, I think at half time, the number of football club supporters, other teams, all you get is, come on Fulham, come on Palace, come on Arsenal. So boring. It's unbelievable. With songs, we Forest, it's incredible. You see all the different flags and everything that come up in the Trent end. So the atmosphere, for me, second to none. Our supporters are the best in the league, without a doubt.
Emily, I think if you can hear us, I think your mic was a bit loose and then it gave up. It was a little bit crackly before that. So you might need to maybe go out and come back in. I'm not sure. Can we hear you now?
Hello, I'm here. Testing,
You're
testing,
here.
1, 2, 3.
Emily's back.
Yes. Emily's back. Emily's back. We're all okay. We're all okay. Right, let's talk just quickly looking at the Man City game before we go then. Just on the extra time, Gary, how much of a factor do you think it is? Some of those players played 120, 110 minutes. Is that going to hurt us going into the Man City game or not?
I think it'll prepare us better. The thing you've got to do now is just give them a bit of time off. You know, that's what we did when we played. I'm going back to when we played, just trying to figure out. We played a hell of a lot more games than they do now. When we'd had a run of games, he would just give us 2 days off and say, right, just go and relax, get yourself back, recharge your batteries, and come in and do a good day's training and then prepare for the match. And I think that's today because it worked. When you're playing 140 games in 2 seasons, and coming out and still winning things, you can't just dismiss that as back in the day sort of thing, because I was part of that back in the day. My body was shot at the end of the season. It really was. But, we got time off as well. You've got to give players a little bit of a break, not a warm weather one, because travelling, I think, is detrimental. Even if you go on a train or you're a passenger in a car, you feel when you've been in the car 2.5 hours or whatever, you feel a little bit shattered, even though you've done nothing. And I think that was the wrong thing to do going to Dubai for that. We used to go to Callum for warm weather, but not for training. We played tennis and we had a pint or two, and we came back with our batteries recharged, and then we go and win things. So you've got to balance it out. Don't overwork them in training. You don't have to. You really don't. Take them for a walk down the river like we used to. Have a stroll. It's as good as a run. Really is. Don't over-egg the pudding. Don't work the body if you don't have to. And at this moment in time, I don't think they have to, because we're playing a number of games. We've got an international break coming up. So, just go out on Saturday against Man City, one game at a time, give that game everything you possibly can, because it's Man City, and beat them, and then assess after, and assess game by game. Don't just be don't be predictable in what you do because it's modern day football. Think about things that have happened in the past. Try and merge the two together. It works.
I think the only players that I would slightly worry about were probably Hudson-Odoi, who played a lot of minutes, kind of coming back from injury. Olerainer always looks knackered, but I thought he was really pretty good last night. He looks more back at it.
If you had to carry those shorts, you'd be knackered. World.
Olerainer is a class performer. He's going to play every game that matters. He does look tired towards the end of the game. I think that's just his way. I don't think he necessarily slows down. He's still up there to take long throws. He still does his running. Yeah, he's bent over, holding his knees and sucking the air in. But yeah, these boys work hard. There was a really good piece in the week, wasn't there, with Axel Twanzibi, talking about the amount of time that players spend in zone 5, zone 6, as they call it, anaerobic effort. And I know Gaz doesn't want to hear it, and that 6 pints to Madrid and a trip to Benidorm was the perfect mid-season break for a team that won 2 European Cups. I think Will says in the comments, like Gary's giving the tips for the Forest sports scientists here. Just copy and paste what worked in the late 70s. But the game has changed. And whilst Garry and his team were, better footballers than many of those that they played against, what has happened recently with the advent of sports science is players who are less talented have caught up with those that are more talented if they find some kind of physical advantage, be that strength in the kind of Diego Costa, Hulk kind of mode, Gyökeres as you're seeing now, or pace as we see in Anthony Langer and several others. And, John Robertson, absolutely class footballer. Was he a classic athlete? No, he wasn't. He was a baller. He could dribble. He could shoot. He could find the corner. He was insanely creative. But the eras are just so different. And I think, finding a nice barista coffee in Dubai is going to happen far more frequently than finding 6 pints by the pier, as worked for Gaz back in the day. Yeah, incomparable. But I know the era I'd rather have been a footballer in, Gary.
Yeah, but
Come on, Gary.
greatest time. You know, come on, everybody's different, but you have to give your body a little bit of a rest at times. What I'm saying is, don't always go with what everybody says is the right thing, because everybody's body's different. This is what annoys me. Everybody's pigeonholed as the same price. Right, you're a footballer, you have to do this no matter who you are. Goalkeepers don't do as much work. You know, they never did. They did their goalkeeping, work, which was brilliant. You used to watch Shilton work with the other goalkeepers. He was brilliant with them. And that's what you want. You want your goalkeeper to save it. You don't want to watch him run, 2.5 miles quicker than your right back or something. It's about managing your body. And sometimes the body needs a rest. When we're ill or anything like that, your body tells you, lie down, take it easy. And it's a wonderful thing, because it does tell you those things. Not, an athlete thing. It's a body, a human thing. So just don't do things that you don't have to. If you need a little bit of rest, a couple of days off doesn't hurt you. It really doesn't. You can just go walking. And I mean, look at the weather now. Just go walking for, 2 hours. I go out, before 7 o'clock every morning for a couple of hours walk. I get 10,000 steps in early and then go and do more. And I, manage 20,000 steps because I'm getting on in life. But I enjoy it. It's good for the body. It's good for your mental health. So you can incorporate that in with professional football as well. Don't overdo it. Just think about it and say, right, I think they might need a rest. Hudson-Odoi's been brilliant. Right, just go away, a couple of days, come back refreshed, and let's go again. It makes sense.
You've got to go, Gary. I know you've got to depart. You've got something on this afternoon. Any quick final words on the Man City game? It's a very big game. How are you feeling about it on Saturday?
I'm very confident we'll beat them. And I just, any other business, I just want to know Temps's view on the England cricket situation at the moment, how bad it is, and what he'd do.
Well, very quickly, because it's a football podcast, but yeah, the white ball team, I think, have lost 16 out of 17 games. The England white ball teams, men and women, which isn't what you'd expect from this talent pool, from this level of resourcing, and relative to the teams that they're playing against. Of course, a nation of the cricketing might and resource of England shouldn't lose to Afghanistan, right? But here's the lesson. What to Gary's point earlier, talent can trump all of those things, and sport provides these opportunities for ebb and flow, peaks and troughs. England cricket are in a bad spot in a white ball sense at this moment in time, and Forest are at a relative high in recent moments. So when you have that run of form, change happens. Josh Butler's fallen on his sword, who's been one of the best England white ball players of the last 10 years. So let's hope the next man up can make a marked improvement. But yeah, that's sport, isn't it, Gary? You can't stay on top forever, and it creates opportunity for the next cabs off the rank.
With your players, if you think they need a rest, give them a rest. And a rest is not, having a jog around the training ground. It's saying, right, you just go and rest your body for a day and come back, the day after. Just give them a day off. It's not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. Right, on that note, I'm off.
See you later.
I've had my rant. Sorry, I've got to go. I've got a hospital appointment this afternoon. So, yeah.
No worries. Good luck. See you later. Bye. Bye.
What a man. I love that pro old school chat.
He's got to jog to that hospital appointment now. I think that's the plan. or jog to the pub to refuel. Yeah.
Should we go to Benidorm and just have an absolute session?
Yeah, it
just
sounds great.
Get our mental health back on track.
Yes, please.
What about Man City, Emily? Then, how are you feeling about it?
I feel fine. There's a lot of pressure on the game in terms of our league position. It sounds like a cliche, doesn't it? But it's a great time to play Man City. They are not the beast that they have been over the last few years. We know they've got frailties, but equally we know they've got players that can hurt us. Haaland's got back into scoring form, hasn't he? So we're going to have to keep him quiet. But I think we go into that game as we go into any game. It's at the City ground. We've talked about the atmosphere, but I think the atmosphere will be good for Man City. And I think that whatever we can get out of that game is a result, because if we can get a draw, that keeps them away from us for another game. But I feel fine about it. The really good thing about last night, no injuries. So, we go in with hopefully a fully fit squad. We talked about Ola Reina looked shattered at the end, but he always does. And actually, Ryan Yates was interviewed after the game last night and asked about that. And he said, we're athletes, we're fine. And it's a Monday night game. It's not like it's a Wednesday night game. There's plenty of time to rest and recuperate. They'll be absolutely fine. I don't think we need to read too much into that. So no, I'm feeling good about it. I think we just enjoy it. We are at that stage of the season now. Whatever happens is a fantastic season. So I'm just trying to just enjoy the fact that we're in March and we remain in third.
Yeah, and last night was at home. Saturday's at home. I think those are factors. We don't have the travel or anything, so I think it's fine. James makes the point here, Temps. It's sort of a bit of a 180 on the Arsenal game. Arsenal's strength is at the back. City's is going the other way, and they're susceptible at the back. I don't think we're playing overly well at the moment. I don't read out too much into that because we've played a lot of good teams, and I thought we were okay yesterday. So I don't think form's a massive concern given how we played against Arsenal. But how are you feeling about this one?
The run that's going to make or break our season doesn't include the Man City game. It's how we roll in those last 10 when we're playing a lot of sides from the bottom half of the table and a lot of sides that have underperformed. Man City are an enigma. The recovery is going to come, be it this season or next. We know they're going to be up there. They've got arguably the best striker in the league, and they have depth everywhere. They're going through a bit of a transition. They're going to have to ease out players like Kevin De Bruyne. Kyle Walker's already gone. It is a bit of a changing of the guard for a team that were consistently excellent with a relatively settled spine of the side. But surgery is required. They're not having the season they would expect to have. They're conceding an awful lot of goals, more goals than us. Glancing at the table, they've conceded more goals than Fulham this season, who are down in ninth place. So there are frailties, and the way to beat them is to go toe-to-toe, to nullify Erling Haaland by denying him territory and possession. So I'm picking the back four. I'm picking the wingers. I'm chucking Ryan Yates in the middle to be combative alongside the creativity of Morgan Gibbs-White and Elliot Anderson. And I want to see Forest have a real go. 6-pointer, but in a nice way, right? It's a 6-pointer to finish the day third in the Premier League with a bit of daylight. So let's enjoy that situation and see where we end up. And just a point on the cup draw, I think I'm right in saying that there's a Europa League spot, additional Europa League spot for the cup winners. So if a top 5 side was to win the FA Cup, that would mean 8th position being a Europa League spot. So there's every reason to hope that can work out in our favour as well. But my target remains the same. Of course, I'd love to get to Wembley, but a top 5 finish is the be all and end all for me. And this Man City game gives us a real opportunity to get a stride closer to that goal.
I did say that if we were in the top 5 after we played City, I think we'll get in the Champions League, and we will be, as Derek says. So I've got to back us, and I do back us. And as Steve points out in the chat as well, I mean, there are tough games in our run-in, like Palace are in form, Everton look improved, Tottenham could beat Tottenham and things like that. But I think you've got to take it. And the season sort of starts in a sense after this game. But this is the biggest game of this bracket of Newcastle, Arsenal and City, because if we win this, it's so huge, as Temp says. Such a swing if we can put City away. I think it's going to be really difficult anyway. But we'll preview it fully on Thursday with Pete, Mikey and Nathan Joy. So do join us for that one. Emily, any final thoughts before we go? Anything you want to add?
I've just noticed on the FA Cup Twitter feed, if you follow the FA Cup, they've just put a video out of Anthony Elanga in the dressing room after the win. If you're worried about the players' energy, take a look at that video. He's absolutely fine. You know what they're like with their dancing after the match. So I think no fears about their fitness. But no, yeah, I think let's just keep going, keep enjoying it. And I'm really, really looking forward to Saturday, actually, because like Temp says, it's a 6-pointer, but in the best possible way.
Absolutely. Temp, anything from you before we go?
Just that nice moment last night with Sam Perkins on the screen. I think we've spoken about Sam a lot, given the particular link that Greg has with him, one of his great mates, but also beyond that, the work he's done. Not to in any way feel sorry for himself, but to raise funds and awareness for motor neuron disease in just the most inspiring way. So tribute that would have meant an awful lot to Sam last night. It was a really nice moment in the 6th minute.
Certainly was. Well done to everyone at the ground for that, and the club for setting it up. And I saw Ipswich tweeted about it as well, so fair play to them. And ITV Football for putting it out on Twitter. So yeah, great stuff. If you have enjoyed this, do us a favour and hit like and subscribe. Do consider channel membership or Patreon. And if you do get channel membership or Patreon, you'll get early access to tomorrow's podcast, which I'm recording in 90 minutes with Henry Winter. So it's well worth it for a couple of quid a month, I think. So yeah, something to consider for you there. So like I say, back tomorrow with Henry Winter, then a match preview, then the opposition preview. And that leads nicely into Saturday with a post-match show. I think it's at 5 o'clock, so I'm going to the game. So lots coming up for you to enjoy, hopefully. Emily Anderson, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to take my dog out for a walk in that lovely sunshine.
Yeah, 20,000 steps. That's the plan.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
That's the plan. The Garry diet.
That's what you want. Michael Temple, thank you very much.
Hey, Matt, if there's any kids listening who really want to be footballers, don't go to Albufeira and have 6 pints of Maggi with your dad. Get on a decent diet, sleep well, run when you need to. Sure, have a day off on a Sunday. But let's follow medical science to give ourselves the best possible chance.
If Garry was here, he'd start arguing with you about that as well. But you have to go. Right, there you go. Thanks very much to Emily and Temps. Have a good day, everyone. If we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.